Hello and welcome Battleforge community. Today I'm back with another replay series and this is going to be a matchup discussion about Fire Frost against Shadow Frost. I think this is a pretty difficult matchup for the Fire Frost side, at least from my experience. And I was trying to basically figure out certain elements on how to make this matchup a little bit easier for me. And I thought I had a pretty interesting set of replays with, let's say, problematic ways of where Fire Frost struggles in this matchup, and would be interesting to show them, I think. And yeah, let's just get into the replays here. I'm playing against Draken, who is playing the Shadow Frost side in those replays, and yeah, I'm going for the Scavenger. Start Fire Tier 1. Not going for the Frost version here, so the Fire starter in all games for me. And we see basic Forsaken start into the Sunstrider start. So maybe before we get into those matches, I will talk about something that might be important to know before heading into this. So first of all, why are we playing this matchup on this map here? Because I think Lion is one of the best maps for Shadow Frost in this matchup here. Because it makes it really hard to attack the faction later on based on the win conditions we have. So Shadow Frost, in order to win this matchup, really wants to reach a late game stage. Shadow Frost has one of the best tier 3s in the game because Timeless One is such a strong card to enable strong defense, and then you have like Silver Lancers as a strong trading tool, and Tremor as well. And those cards, those high HP Frost cards, synergize extremely well with the buffs that Shadow offers, like the Life Weaving, as well as the Nasty Surprise to create more damage threat onto units, like unit removal through Silver and Nasty, or like Tremor Nasty to finish off power wells. Really, really powerful tier 3. Also XL removal through Aura of Corruption and Frostbite, very strong at tier 3. Super solid. And also Shadow Frost has a lot of slots available to make sure that you can play such a large tier 3. On the other hand, we have Fire Frost that really wants to win the game through early leads that you want to snowball, because you really need to avoid this super strong tier 3 from Shadow Frost. How to reach such a tier 3? You basically want to get as many power wells early on as possible. The ideal number is 6 or 7, maybe even 8, but that is really, really high. And usually you don't get to such high power numbers. But 6 to 7 power wells is something that is basically what the Shadow player wants to achieve. So I'm basically breaking up the map here, attacking from two angles here to make sure that we get a certain mobility advantage with the two Scavengers here. So this Dread Charger Nasty not super efficient because first of all the Scavenger luckily survives with 14 HP. And also the Dread Charger ended up hitting one of the Forsaken over here because it didn't really walk up far enough in the situation. I think resummoning would have been a lot better, like retreating and resummoning here would have been better than going for the Eruption, because right now I lose the Sunstrider squad here, which is not super good. But yeah, you can see the issue here. Luckily, I get to reduce these Forsaken to sub 6, so this squad is losing lots of value. And now I retreat because Motivate is active. Duration got reduced with the last patch, but you can see still certainly long duration to zone me out. I don't want to fight into this. So we basically have like 4 squads on my side and 3.5 on his. My score is a little lower, so I spent a little bit less power compared to Draken. So the position is pretty equal. I have, I think I'm even a little ahead power-wise, but positioning is better for Draken because he controls the center, and this position is really good because you can later on just take this orb, you get free tier 3 access without really building up too much room that I can use to attack. So Forsaken being frenzied here to basically react probably to a potential engage. I'm not sure, maybe it was also a misclick, I don't know. But yeah, those Forsaken will be kited. I just run backwards here, take a power well to heal up, and yeah, Draken does the same. So 3 power wells, pretty normal situation here. And now this is a solid position. Back then you never could do something like this, but with the orb that is got added to the side here, I'm in an acceptable position because simply because I can take this orb and still have tier 3 access over here, tier 3 access over here, so I'm not really zoned out of the map when it comes down to the late game scaling. Because back then you guys just could take the center and then defend it forever, and the enemy had no access of going even tier 3. So even in a favorable tier 3 matchup, you were down when losing the center. But yeah, since I'm playing Fire Frost into Shadow Frost, I don't want to reach the tier 3 stage at all. Or maybe I want tier 3, but my opponent just shouldn't get it. I'm now attacking this angle here, because if he summons a Dread Charger, I can erupt this, like here. So he cannot nasty anymore, which would be very devastating. And since he had Forsaken all around the place here, there was no way for the Dread Charger to walk through a room without walking over the Forsaken, which gave me this good eruption. So right now I have to split my army here to make sure I don't run into this big nasty surprise, which would kill basically all 4 Forsaken here. And I try to retreat. So Draken really smart, retreating here a little bit, also soaking up one of those Forsaken squads. So this Dread Charger didn't die, he sniped out one of my squads because I had to split my army, which made me a little vulnerable. But since Draken took a 3rd power well here, which is a little greedy in my opinion, I just do attack with a Sundra here. So playing this out on 2 power wells here is completely fine, but this extra power well here on a high power level against Fire T1 is a certain mistake. And yeah, pretty solid T1 start for me in this case because this power well drops. Forsaken will run out, so those ones die. Summoning another Dread Charger to soak up the HP pool, which is very dangerous into Fire T1. But yeah, that's not too big of a deal. So reducing the void level onto two power wells again. You can see this well is just converted almost like 30 power something. So I have a solid power lead through tier 1, punishing this extra power. On the other hand, Draken right now has this Dread Charger here with 2 Forsaken. And I try to reduce the HP a little bit on that one by making sure it does not connect to my Sunstraders, which is rather important. But Draken doing this a very solid move by playing the aggressive double frenzy, followed up by tier 2. So I really need more units than him to defend this, or I need to invest more power. And I also cannot allow him to just freely walk up and attack my power well, because 2 Frenzied Forsaken are a solid threat to kick a power well during the construction time of an orb. And therefore Draken using this to convert a little bit of tempo, because I had to invest more power into tier 2, into tier 1 units. And you can see right now I'm at 144, he's at 116, and he has 1 additional power well again. I have a lot more void, so I will get a lot more power over time. But for now, I cannot really punish this well pickup. So very smart transition by Draken, because as I said earlier, Shadow Frost wants a lot of power wells and wants to reach 6 power wells to get to this tier 3 stage later on, or to get access to this. And this is something I really need to punish at some point in time. And right now he got his 5th power well pretty much unpunished, despite me having a solid tier 1 advantage. So if I do another mistake, he might get to 6, he might get to threaten a tier 3 pickup. And this is something I really want to avoid. So I try to set up a big attack with like Mars Stormsinger and Skyfire Drake. But I also took the power well in the corner over here to equalize in power wells. In the meantime, Draken walks up with his Dread Charger. And right now, attacking with the Lost Reaver and 2 Stormsingers, which are getting freezed. In the meantime, attacking at the top. So, and if you look at this attack is, I think, pretty good by Draken, because right now I was trying to set up an attack towards the center, which immediately got intercepted by a good split. Because right now there's more than 300 power bound into this location here. Also a freeze being invested, and also a frost sorceress being invested that really does not deal any damage right now. And he makes sure that he goes for a very solid split attack on the top here with a Lost Reaver. where I cannot react properly. And I really need to combo trick early on, because once this drops below 1000 right now, I really need to be careful, because then he can nasty. So I really need to pay attention to this. You can react with combo trick in time, because nasty has a short delay, but still very, very dangerous. And, cold snap hitting those units here, so delaying a little bit to make sure there's more time. On the top, I have had to freeze those units here. But yeah, life weaving we used to keep this Reaver alive for a little longer. But over here, this is still okay for now. But this attack really needs to be stopped at all cost. Another combo trick and Mass Stormsinger here. At this point in time, finally this Frost Sorceress can start generating value by adding those important shields here for me. Also reducing the HP of the Lost Reaver as early as possible. Very important to make sure that he cannot nasty to finish it off. I try to go for Rageclaws, setting up something that I later on transitions into offense and also is a good counter to basic Stormsinger spam. But for now they end up getting kited, which is really not optimal. And also Dazed Lost Reaver being played, once this gets out of Daze, it deals as bonus damage, so this Rageclaws most likely struggling. I had to place so many combo tricks over here to keep this alive, so definitely an okay attack on the top, dealing a lot, generating lots of value, even though this Lost Reaver went down in the end, and even though Draken definitely had to invest 1 or 2 life weavings. Still really worth it. Also, like, yeah, those Rageclaws really not doing anything here. Pretty bad decision, I think, to go for them into the Shadow Frost matchup. Also later on, they don't transition too well into the Dark Earth Assassins. That is something I realized after the match, that this is not the best card to play in this scenario here. As you can see, Stormsinger is kiting them. Good job also by Draken, making sure that he splits a little bit, so I cannot hit all units with a good freeze. You can always move the Stormsinger to the side, maybe move this one. So I just hit 2 units with the freeze here. But yeah. Of course, it looks like, yeah, okay, fine, this is defended. But if we take a look at the center here, there are 6 power wells. And this is basically the standard win condition that you want in this matchup here, of course. 6 power wells, maybe 7. 7 is even better. Yeah, and a very, very good freeze. My unit's not properly splitted. So this attack can go on even longer to buy time. This is everything this needs to do here. Buy time, so I cannot respond by a strong counter attack or take another power well. And you can see Draken building up lots of power, already hitting the 250 mark, so tier 3 might happen rather soon. In the meantime, I have a lot of units here, so I can try to set up an attack towards the center, but yeah, it really is not too easy to convert this into an advantage. And right now, another advantage of Elion comes into play. You can split your army very well, and this is something that Draken does extremely well here. He's splitting against Lava Field, which is something I really want to use to build up my advantage here. In the meantime, this Lost Reaver also healing up. I think it would have been better, just something I want to note, to just not take this position, because it's really open to attacks from over here. You can see this Reaver walked up, attacked. You can just withdraw, heal it up again, then attack again, and so on. And Lost Reaver attacks, pretty dangerous. As I said, once the well drops below half HP, you can nasty to finish it off. So you always have to keep attention, combo check constantly. So it would have been much safer to take this power well, and if he wells up to 6 and I cannot respond, I have this location very close to well up again. Right now there's nothing that is close by to well up. I could move up to this position here, pretty far away, but yeah. My decision here was trying to punish this, because I thought, yeah, I'm at 5 wells, I just defended an attack, so I have solid tempo, and if I get to kick a power well, that would be great, because then we go back to 5 wells, which might give me a better chance, considering that I want to avoid the late game tier 3 stage. Right now this well in big danger, Nasty Surprise could kill it, so yeah, combo trick being played here, I had to pay attention, and I was not capable of microing my army while maintaining this power well healthy. If we trade 1 for 1, it's better than nothing, but still I'm down 1 power, so I really should trade positive and not just go like net even in those trades. Because I really invested a lot. In the meantime, this Stormsinger walking up here to sneak for a certain split here. But yeah, those Stormsingers trying to hit the Reaver. A really good freeze out, also like making sure that all of them ended up getting frozen before I had the chance to split them back then. Yeah, this at 500. A combo trick overloaded over here, so I had to invest the Glacier Shell at keeping this power well alive for some time. Yeah, at this point, this power will kill a little sneaky here, but traded 1 for 1 because with the Glacier Shell, it was just not defendable anymore because I cannot use any additional repairs. And I invested the power to kick the power on the top. So right now those Reavers doing very good power conversion here, using all the tempo he has to attack at 2 spots. And this is how you need to attack with Lost Reavers. Attack at 2 simultaneous areas. At two areas simultaneously, I mean. Because then you can overload the protects. At one point I have to use the combo trick. At the other area I use the Glacier Shell, and then you add the Life Weaving onto the Lost Reaver next to the Glacier Shell, because the Life Weaving reflect damage circumvents any buffs. So it just goes through the Glacier Shell and deals extra damage to the power. Draken ended up overloading here. And my attack to like reduce the power count here completely failed. I did not apply enough pressure, and in the counterattack I ended up going down here. So at this point in time, I have a big army, but I have nothing to set up a strong attack here in the end. And this Lost Reaver life reflection, that is something I really underestimated. As you can see, the Side Fiends ended up dying as well, which is really bad because that was worth 200 technically speaking. And now I'm at 2 power worlds. I have lots of units, but 6 power worlds, 250, and there it comes, the tier 3 to finish it off. At this point, my last chance was like saying, okay, I might go for the monuments here, attack this, attack this, attack this with Rageclaws that deal lots of damage, but against Dark Elf Assassins that immediately get activated, they delete those units way too quickly. Trying to use the Scorched Earth to delay the tier 3. Yeah, that's just something in general that you can do. Try to go for the orbs if there is no way to win this game in the long run through generating more power. But in this case, it's definitely way too late. It's not working out. I'm playing 4 power worlds down. And yeah, at this point, I ended up losing this first game of the series. Nice Lost Reaver Nasty, by the way, here. So, strong execution by Draken in this tier 2 matchup. And you can see I ended up struggling super hard, despite... I ended up surrendering here. I ended up struggling super hard in this tier 2 matchup, despite getting an early power well kill. That was pretty clean. Like, my tier 1 was basically perfect for me. We started from 4 wells. I traded something for the power kick, that has to be said, because I traded tempo. He could do the counterattack where he did the Frenzy Forsaken with the tier 2 in the backline. That was a very smart move because that allowed Draken to get the 5th power well here. Still, I had a permanent power advantage and I was unable to convert it into pressure. So this is something that Firefrost really struggles at, and this is something I really want to find a solution for. Because if you play Fire Nature or Pure Fire, those factions have no issues with converting such an advantage. You can just go either like double Enforcer Skyfire Fire Dancer, or just double Borrower Skyfire and then support it with Squad Control and set up a Borrower spam later on. Those two things will work really well, but with Firefrost, I really struggle to convert the tempo lead that I have into actual pressure to prevent Shadow Frost from scaling. And this is something I really wanted to look for, and I try to find some approaches to punish this throughout the series. And yeah, we can also watch the upcoming replays here to see if it worked or not. So yeah, let's see. Let's take a look at the second replay. Alright, welcome to the second replay. We will see the same matchup, the same map, and yeah, probably the the same, yeah, the same deck in this game. Tier T1 will be played Fire into Shadow, and yeah, same win condition basically. My job is to reduce the power well counts early on. Draken's job is to raise the power well counts early on, and reach tier 3 to close out the game. We are at four units here on both sides. So this is the very standard opening here. Many Sunstriders, many Forsaken, trying to split a little bit to avoid the threat of AoE. This Scavenger trying to match this Dread Charger to avoid nasty surprise. Those Forsaken being splitted as much as possible to avoid the efficiency of the Eruption. Nobody wants to go in first because obviously once the Forsaken move forward, they start overlapping, so it will be hard to split them against an Eruption. In the meantime, adding a second Dread Charger to make sure that there is a second threat of nasty surprise. Another Scavenger being played to match this and slow the Dread Charger down before it gets to attack properly. So right here, this Dread Charger immediately getting focused. So this nasty surprise not super efficient. Just hitting those Sunstriders here, but not finishing them off. In the meantime, the Motivate being played. So I say, yeah, I got a good trade, let's get out of this. Both of us are at 5 units, but you can see the difference in power, right? Pretty big trade here for me. Large advantage for me. And I also think that it is pretty safe to go to this area here. If he had engaged, I had the option of erupting to this triple Forsaken squad. I think there's something I could have done to play this a little more aggressively. But I decided to take a power well, make sure all my Sunstriders get to full HP back again. Because Draken ended up playing a Dread Charger here, so I knew he was down in power. And therefore he can take this power well a little later. I have almost 10 additional power just through this move. And yeah, at this point I move forward. I think it would have been fine to take another one here, but I'm a little hesitant at this point in time because I don't want to take too many power wells early on. Simply because I really want a permanent advantage, first of all. And secondly, I want to reduce the enemy's void and not just increase my own. I want to delay the tier 3 for as long as possible. And yeah, this is why I ended up refusing to take this power. So Draken did take one, and I think I have a certain power lead at this position where it did the +1, right? So I will try to punish this. Those two run down here. He's playing the Forsaken. At this point I turn around and attack the center. This move was just done to make him invest 50 power into something that just does not do anything for the fight right now. So the Red Charger moving forward, I just wanted to make sure that the Sundra does not get hit, dodging the nasty surprise, and right here I ended up sacrificing the Sundra, Motivate being played into those Forsaken as well to delete the Sundra, but I saw that that was such a huge commitment here by Draken, and I ended up just retreating, because all of those Forsaken will die, and at this point in time I can set up an attack that is much more powerful than the previous one. Yeah, splitting a little bit, making sure, but I thought, yeah, it's not possible to properly make sure that this Dread Charger goes down in HP before I hit the power, so a trade that I take because it has the extra HP through soaking up those Frenzy Forsaken. And you can see power well drops, greedy power well getting punished, only converted 50 power here by keeping it alive for 1 minute and 30 or something like that. Yeah, 1 minute 30, 1 minute 40, something like this. And yeah, second Sundra being played because I still had a certain amount of tempo since the Forsaken that Draken played were frenzied, and he's really trying his best to body block it, which is something that's nice. But this doesn't prevent the Sundra from hitting this power well. Right now, I just waited a little bit to see if I can do it without interruption. But that is second power well kill. So amazing situation for me here. This is a huge reduction in power early on. This is the best case scenario that I could basically get. I reduced the enemy's power. I have no high void level here. And yeah, this really allows me to play a smooth early game. And yeah, so just take a look at what happens next. I think I will take another power well and go tier 2 later on. I think it would have been better to take tier 2 right away, I think. I'm not sure about this power well, basically because of my win condition of reducing power well counts as much as possible. But I think the thought process behind this was saying, okay, I will try to take a power well and tier 2 at the same time. And then, basically, if he takes a power well, he cannot respond with his own tier 2 in time, because a lot of his power is just gone because of the power well take. And then I get a certain time window where I'm tier 2 and he's not. But, yeah, I think that's something that you can do in certain scenarios, but it did work out in this game. Forsaken getting frozen, trading 75 for 100 in this case, but since those units were tier 1 units, and this is not super worth it. But yeah, since my S counter, my basic S counter are the Side Fiends, which are pretty expensive and don't really work well in early tier 2, I really wanted to avoid using them. But yeah, that basically didn't work out so well. And yeah, I really try to do something that applies pressure. Like, that is something that you can do. It's like you take a power well and then you attack immediately. Because then you basically reduce the threat of like nasty spam or something with your power reduction. Because let's say like this power well tech is something that reduces the void level for the next 3 minutes, but then later on will increase it as long as the power wells survive, of course. So you can use it to make like to drop the void level for a short time period, which can give you an opening to attack. So that's the idea behind this. But now this attack obviously has to work out. Otherwise, I'm playing into the hands of my opponent, because he really wants a lot of power wells to get towards tier 3. Yeah, but that is a really bad trade by me. This lava field was terrible. On the other hand, it was a very good split by Draken here, making kind of sure that those Stormsingers are not getting hit by the lava field here. Otherwise, I could just try to pick them off with the remaining 2 here from the side that went down. Also trying to split again. One of them gets out. And right now, this is what I mean by a Lion being one of the hardest maps to punish this defensive Shadow Frost gameplay, because he has so much room to split his units, and he also has so little room for me to attack. I can just attack this position and this main base, and he's basically at 6 power wells right now. So pretty much I overestimate the amount of things I could do, because right now you can see the position is really awkward for me, and you can see my mistakes really being punished by Draken. The very poor attack here, and also not the best decisions of just welling up, basically just to make sure this attack works. That's a high risk, considering I was ahead by a lot of power, considering I took 2 power wells in the early stage of the game. And now this really bites back, because I'm at 6 power wells, and now I really need to do something, otherwise this game will go to tier 3. And you can see Cold Snap delaying a little bit. So this basically does nothing. And Draken trying to set up a split attack, making sure this offense does not do too much. Try to focus down the Skyfire with the Stormsingers. I played the Revenge to counter it and keep it alive, and he used the Gravity Surge. In the meantime, lost Reaver Nasty here, clearing out something that was worth 220. He did freeze before, so was basically even. A little bit more power efficient for me, but still not super good. because like trading 245 for 220 on high void levels is basically an even trade. It just doesn't matter unless you have a strong attack going in the meantime. So yeah, you can see I'm completely unable to apply pressure into T2. And this is just something that I don't want, obviously. But right now I saw Draken invest a lot of power into his units. He had like 4 Storm Singers and a Lost Reaver. So basically, like there's still 300 bound power on the board. In the meantime, I had just 160, and I also had a certain amount of tempo. So I decided to go tier 3 by myself before I just wait up until Draken can do it for free to get a solid tempo advantage. As you can see, I'm tier 3 and Draken just now at the power to do so. And yeah, with the Scorched Earth into Eruption combo, I immediately can kick this orb. So first of all, delaying this, also taking 100 power out of the pool, and buying even more time for my Giant Slayers to apply pressure onto the orbs and finish this game before the timeless one scaling kicks in. In the meantime, Draken though doing a good job at attacking, because he has many Storm Singers. I cannot really use a Giant Slayer to defend it. Also, this Nightcrawler immediately frenzied to buy time. I'm really forced to use the Vulcan over here, which is very expensive. And Draken doing a good job reacting at all positions that I attack, while applying pressure himself, to make sure this tier 3 comes through. And now it is pretty problematic. I kicked 2 orbs, 1 orb and 2 power wells over the time of the game, over the time. But Timeless 1 tier 3 is super strong, so I'm not in the best position, and I'm also losing this Vulcan. Did not pay attention here. Vulcan Giant Slayer, really strong at snowballing advantages, but not that strong at playing an extend tier 3, obviously. Right now, just running away from those Silver Lances, because I don't want to take them in a one-on-one fight. Support 1 or 2, better said, because there's a Timeless 1 supporting. In the meantime, this Giant Slayer was able to dodge the Timeless 1 freeze. On the other hand, this Silver Lancer squad dies before this freeze comes in, due to the Giant Slayer support I got here. Ravage making sure this one does not die. But yeah, right now you can see those Silver Lancers doing lots of work in the defense, making sure that Draken is in a stable position. Very important when doing the Vulcan versus Silver Lancer fight, always fight outside of the range of other buildings or something, because this Vulcan applies damage in a cone, and the damage gets split when you hit multiple targets. As you can see right now, even with the ability, those Silver Lancers don't take enough damage, because it just gets split with the orbs and power wells, like soaking up lots of damage. Yeah, you can see another attack on this orb, another attack on this orb, and you can see that Draken is capable of defending this despite his power disadvantage. And on the long run, I would lose this. So it is pretty dissatisfying to see having such a strong start in the game and still being put to a position where the enemy basically is in a scenario where he still reached the point where he is favored in this game. Because this tier 3 will run out of power quite soon. And yeah, lots of Silver Lancers on the board. And Draken did a good job at stabilizing here. And without a certain tempo lead, I will have some problems. So this Giant Slayer trying to intercept the Silver Lancers over here. And now you can see the Tremor, which is so hard to remove. Another Cold Snap to buy more time for the Tremor to get into position to attack. In the meantime, another Giant Slayer split. And yeah, Tremor, Silver Lancers. Another Tremor ready here. And this power well dropping low already. Fortunately, he did not attack again, otherwise this power well would have been down already. Vulcan attack in the middle, being stopped by Timeless 1 and the Silver Lancers. Silver Lancers Timeless 1. Yeah, and you can see 2 power wells dropped, but on the other hand, Draken lost his orb, which is pretty important for me, But if you note the power score, I did not do a split attack. So it was none of his buildings were under pressure. He had power. So Cobalt Trick and Glacier Shell were both available, maybe even shield building if he plays it. So I lost 2 power wells. I was basically my power limit. So I was not capable of defending this based on the power that I had, based on the cooldowns that I had. This is an advantage that was generated by a mistake. So I'm really lucky this happens. This is not something that I achieved through better matchup playing, like through better strategy or something. This was just basically a micro mistake by Draken here. And ultimately winning the game for me. Because right now I have pressure towards the center. I could technically delay this with the Giant Slayer that was about to move to the position here. This is where Draken also left the game and said, yeah, it's GG. But still, if you take a look at the strategic way of playing this matchup, Draken did a much better job than I did because he basically played towards his win condition. And you also could see that he was basically destroying my first power worlds over there. Like there were 2 power worlds that dropped. And if he had protected the main base, we just didn't see the Giant Slayer, I think. He would have had a chance to really win this game, despite having such a huge deficit in the early stage. And I think it really showed. I was really low on charges as well. Like I think Giant Slayer charges were almost gone. So yeah, considering how well the tier 1 went, this way of playing out the tier 2 matchup is not right. And I think it is pretty clear that you can see that I really had issues at performing with the way I did it. So after doing this twice and not succeeding at doing this tier 2 pressure, I ended up switching strategies. And that is something that you might see in the games 3 and 4, where I tried to do a different approach of playing out the tier 2, and where we might see how the switch of strategy makes a difference in how those matchups played out. Okay, so here we are in the 3rd matchup. And yeah, that's just like, let's head right into the game. Again, Fire vs Shadow tier 1. Also pretty interesting showcase, obviously, for that tier 1 matchup. But I think definitely not the issue, right? So I was still doing fine in those tier 1s. It was mostly the way where I got outperformed in the tier 2 based on how I played towards my win condition. It was just not right? In the meantime, Draken doing a good job at finding his windows where he can well up safely, especially in the tier 2s, tier 2 scenarios. In tier 1, I think he made mistakes that allowed me to punish it, but in tier 2, he had some very smart timings for his power well pickups. We see 5 Forsaken, 4 Sunstriders, and the Scavenger. For now, it's pretty standard, but I was trying some different ways of approaching the tier 1. So I think in this game I had a different strategy on how to open this game. As you can see, 2nd Scavenger being played. So we try a 3-angle attack. So we basically have 3 units over here, 2 units over here, and then we summon stuff over here and attack through this area. What this does essentially, it increases the amount of micro that you really need to keep your units healthy and to like retreat low HP units at multiple positions. It's really hard to keep an overview over the battlefield when you attack at multiple angles at once. So this basically just makes the fight a little harder for both players. And I try to generate an advantage to this. So I'm retreating here while setting up a multi-angle attack over here to create a numbers advantage while those units retreat. You see 4 units chasing 2, so I can overwhelm the rest. So for now, working out pretty well, I think. You can see those units getting deleted despite the frenzy, especially those thugs, really helpful here. But yeah, I made a mistake of leaving those 2 units in the corner here. If those retreat and go back to the center, I think I would just crush this fight here. But yeah, that is something I completely forgot. And this makes this pretty difficult to fight. because those are frenzied. I really need to remove them as quickly as possible. Yeah, make sure those stacks finish them off. In the meantime, those Sunstriders kill this Dread Charger before it gets out of daze. And luckily those stacks here get out of daze, so they can basically retreat here and match the rest of my army. What basically saved me here was the select all units hotkey. There's a hotkey that makes you select all units at once, so you don't have anything left in the corner for the entire game, because that is very, very impactful. And that made me realize, oh hey, there are still 2 Sunstriders over here. So I can still fight. This fight is not lost, I just forgot my units. And at that point I just try to buy time again, try to get some ground on this area here, while basically sacrificing on the left. And right now those thugs can help me getting some ground again. You can see now those have to be kited, but it's pretty good because now the thugs move away from the other Forsaken and they cannot be focused during the dazed status here. And once the thugs connect with the Forsaken, they even win through the frenzy, which is very important, of course. Because as you might know, back then you would just generate power through thugs, which isn't the case. Now they have a little bit more attack, which helps them a lot at removing Forsaken a little quicker once they really connect and don't get kited. And yeah, pretty close fight, but in the end you can see those thugs really dealing the damage that was necessary to stay relevant in the center. And right now we are at the position where you can control the center. And this is something that was really important. You saw in the first games, I sacrificed the center position to get a power advantage and to decrease the void level by doing the successful Sunder attacks. This game, I have control over the center, so I'm the person that can make sure that the Shadow Frost player has to take multiple bases that I might be able to attack later on. So we are at 4 power worlds over here, and later on I want to pick up tier 2 as well. I think at this point in time I should still play the game a little faster. I'm waiting for too long because increasing power level is something that I shouldn't do. But that is something. It is really hard to keep a fast-paced game for the entire time, because it's really something that requires you to think about many aspects of the game, to micro constantly. So sometimes it just doesn't work out too well. And as you can see, I tried to attack here, and Draken used this time window to take tier 2. I forced at least the unit trade, the nasty surprise, but now those thugs are pretty useless against tier 2, which is a bad thing, of course. I would pick up tier 2 as well, but this is a rather even position. So in the other games I was ahead in power because I kicked power wells, but right here I'm just ahead in map control. And what I do here is I will try to play towards my new strategy. First of all, he played Dark of Assassins to defend the thugs, so I try to delay this power well, get something early on that forces this 6th power well, because right now my strategy will like click in once he takes this one, because I tried to play around something new and I need a close base for this to work out. And you can see these 5 worlds, you can take them defensively, but now he takes this one, which is close to my base. This one would be close to this one would be close to this. So in every scenario I get a close base, and now I try to apply pressure in a different way. And there you go. Lyrish Knight is the tool to scale through the mid tier 2. It is a risky move, of course, because we're going into the territory where we need to punish the opponent. But yeah, we just can see a super tanky unit, despite the unholy trance. This Dark of Assassin squads ended up dying. Very high health, so they are not vulnerable to the nasty surprise. And with a close base, I can try to set up a strong attack that continuously goes on, and might be able to convert advantages into actual power well kicks. So I was just trying to see how it goes. And yeah, right here Draken takes the well number 7, which obviously is the move to go towards tier 3. So I'm taking a big gamble here, and yeah, I think it is the same mistake that is happening over and over. I'm accepting those well pickups way too way too passively. So my thought process here is, okay, if I take this power, I can just place a Skyfire Drake over here, over the cliff, and then apply lots of pressure to the power wells. But that is something I should have done earlier. This is something I should have done with the 5th or the 4th power well. Like maybe even like just early on, just take something here, and then you already have the setup to pressure this position. With the 7th power well, it is such a high risk, because right now this game will go to tier 3 really soon. Which is really favorable for Draken, so he basically playing towards his win condition, where I kind of miss a lot of opportunities to put myself into the position where I have a certain power lead, where I generate the power lead. Cold Snap being played here. In the meantime, I had not that much time to react, so lots of Storm Singers here around, so this already killed. This unit already killed. This one takes damage. Overall, definitely worth the power, the 75 investment. But yeah, at this point, the Lyrish Knights start entering the fight, and right here the lava field hits. This is the important part, where this lava field can start generating value. But you just saw the power that Draken had. It was already at really high numbers. So I really need to start applying pressure, and if I don't do this, this game will go to tier 3. And I really want to avoid this. So Stormsinger spam with Lyrish Knight support and Ice Barrier. Of course, two slot investment. I ended up cutting the Rageclaws and also the Rageclaws, and I cutted the Scorched Earth. So yeah, certain investment, of course. And with those lava fields, I can do quite some work. Cold Snap here, make sure both Nightcrawlers end up dying, because they already activated Frenzy. Nasty Surprise to counteract, but as I said, Lyrish Knight pretty vulnerable to Nasty Surprise due to the extremely high HP pool. And yeah, Draken really needs to play those Frenzied Nightcrawlers, because he cannot just spam Stormsingers anymore, because at some point the charges will run out. And also the Nightcrawler DPS very necessary to keep things alive. So I ended up kiting those Frenzied Nightcrawlers. And yeah, there we go. Lyrish Knight surviving here. This eruption was not just for the damage onto the Stormsingers, it also was supposed to knock back the Dark Earth Assassins to enable me enough time to remove the Stormsingers here before anything happens. And you can see that I have a lot more tools right now with the Lyrish Knight Stormsinger combination to really react towards the Dark Earth Assassins while matching the M counters properly. I can also now attack the Dark Elves to apply a lot more pressure. So if this happens on a lower power well count, I think this position would be really great for me. But right now I'm still in a difficult position. But of course, high power level also implies that I have more access to lava fields during the fights, which are even more efficient if there are lots of units on the board. Well, lost Reaver Nest, the one unit that still can remove the Lyrish Knight as long as it's full HP. But trading Reaver Nasty for 3 units is still okay. It's 170 for 180 power. So not the worst thing in the world. Yeah, another Nightcrawler being activated. So both players trading freezes. Once this runs out, the Nightcaller will die. This Lost Reaver is zoning those two Storm Singers, those units healing up in the backline to re-enter the fight at some point. And now you can see two Lost Reavers and yeah, more Lyrish Knights streaming in. And also the Lava Field, dealing damage to both Reavers, dealing damage to Dark Elf Assassins, dealing damage to the Power Wells, ultimately generating a solid amount of value without me being forced to spawn more trading units. So at this point, since I thought I had a solidified trading advantage through the Storm Singers and the Lyrish Knights, I tried to add a Skyfire Drake into the mix while removing the Dark Elf Assassins here with Lava Field. Over the cliff, obviously only removable with Dark Elf Assassins. Nasty Surprise just doesn't work out. Makes it a lot easier for me to keep it alive, but yeah, at least dodging the freeze here, I kind of miscalculated this. I thought they would run out earlier, which is a little unfortunate. But yeah, Aura of Corruption being played at this point in time to make a full clear, but I think that I really need to break through at this point in time. A lot of units are on the board. Lyrish Knights have lots of HP, so they aren't that easily removed. And yeah, with Glacier Shell being played, I thought there is a high chance of really making sure we kill a power. So the first time I was kind of successful at doing something in tier 2. Now the other question is, though, what's the price for that, right? So I'm playing a Storm Singer here into the Aura, removing the Dark Elf Assassins. He's not spawning anything here. So this is a big indicator for me that Draken wants to go to tier 3. So I'm also not playing too much anymore because, of course, I'm on my way to tier 3 as well. It's just that I wanted to keep pressure onto the power while forcing a little bit of extra protects and converting my tempo advantage. You can see I have more power than Draken. I have more tempo, but the power level is too high, honestly speaking, because we had 7 power wells. Now this basically is the issue with playing on too many power wells against the Souls tier 3. Timeless one, freezing the Giant Slayer over here. Try to apply split Giant Slayer's pressure. I saw the Timeless one freezing, so those units were capable of dodging. Because I kind of saw where he wanted to go to. So the Conflagrate trying to break through, but shield building being played in time. Double Giant Slayer, Vulcan attack towards the main base. I really try to overload protects here, but Cold Snap in time. And this is obviously an issue. This shield building really effective. Giant Slayer not able to stick to the power well to bring it into eruption range. Timeless one freeze onto the Giant Slayer Vulcan. And yeah, trying to deal more damage here with the Conflagrate. Trying to get this orb down. But with the shield building, it's pretty hard. In the meantime, Tremor Silver Lance attack on the top. And this not going down with another Timeless one freeze. Draken this time doing a good job at keeping his stuff alive. And yeah, just one Giant Slayer on the top, probably not enough to remove units in time. I think there was a Silver Lance, and I see that I missed killing 2 Giant Slayers and Vulcan, so super effective for Draken. Also freezing the Giant Slayers, very important to always reset the rage they generate. So this also decreases their DPS significantly. And yeah, this is something that is obviously important to know, that you really need to remove the Silver Lances with the Vulcan. But at this point in time, the Life Reef Tremor not removable for me, so I lose my orb on the top, which is pretty big. And this Life Reef Tremor is hard to remove, so I ended up like rebuilding in the center because I think that was just much faster. In the meantime, I had 2 Giant Slayers getting delayed by another Timeless one again. Tremor removing those power wells on the top though, which is problematic. In the meantime, I was capable of getting an orb as well. Not sure if this was again something that Draken noticed because he was at 140 power. And I also think that protects were available again, so rather lucky move for me. But obviously, if there's so much happening on the area, all areas, Giant Slayers generate a lot of DPS very quickly. So this might happen. I'm back to tier 3. I'm back at the situation where I can play my Vulcans here to remove. And they are rather effective when it comes down to removing the Silver Lancers. But I really need to make sure that those timeless ones are gone as soon as possible, because they would be able to freeze my Vulcans way too efficiently. And there's another freeze and the Tremor spam that is really hard to remove, obviously, because Tremor has the best HP ratio out of all tier 3 units, with the siege ability and the potential nasty surprise threat. Draken is going for the orb focus, trying to remove my control over the game, and he's doing it successfully. And this is where the Lost Souls tier 3 really shines. Vulcan's removing the units, getting CC though in the end, and basically all monuments end up dropping here. And yeah, you can see this. I can just speed it up. This is not a good ending for me. There you go, Shema. Yeah, let's say eruption spam doing some work, but in the end, those tremors successful. So yeah, that game also not successful for me in the end, but I think it was very important for me to check how my new strategy would work out. And the Lyrish Knights being able to apply much more pressure in this close well situation, because they were a lot more immune to the Dark Wave Assassins and the nasty surprise threats that Lost Souls brings into the mix here. That was pretty valuable information for me that I could use for the upcoming games. But the biggest mistake I made was doing it on 7 power wells and not just setting up this certain play for 6 power wells, because that is the amount that was necessary to do so. And if I just reduce from 6 to 5 and then we fight on a power level that is just that much lower, I might have had a chance here. And yeah, that was basically the game number 3. And let's just head into the last replay. Okay, hello and welcome to the last replay of this series. And we have the same matchup on the same map. You can see the Scavenger against the Dread Charger. And yeah, let's see if I was capable of doing something that was a little bit more meaningful in the tier 2 matchup. So Sunstriders being played. For Sunstriders, for Forsaken, standard start, trying to get some damage on the Dreadchild to reduce the threat of the nasty surprise. Kinda able to get one hit onto the Dreadcharger, which is important. Even though the Scavenger takes a little bit more damage, it is very important to reduce the Dreadcharger HP to make sure that this full HP nasty doesn't happen anymore. Will be really impactful later on. Since I just don't want to take another fight with the reduction of the Scavenger, with the HP reduction, I will retreat here and hover around the choke point. Fire tier 1 is very strong when it comes down to fight around choke points, because when the Shadow player tries to chase me through that one, all his units will be at the same spot, and then I can just erupt and trade super efficiently. So this Scavenger in the main base, healing up, getting back to full HP. And Draken playing a second Dread Charger because he really wants to reduce or increase the, let's say he wants to increase the threat of nasty surprise, and he wants to reduce the advantage that I generated from hitting this one. So this comes around the corner, and now I just let those Sunstriders be in the front, hit the second Dread Charger, so he cannot nasty that one either to full efficiency. And yeah, that was a nasty that happened here, but you can see my units were alive in this situation, so everything is fine. This scavenger not attacking is a little unfortunate, gets out one additional hit, which is nice, because right now this is pretty even. Same score, or now I'm at like 60 head, but I also played another Thugs squad, and without a difference in score, without a lead, Draken takes a power wheel. And I try to push this with Thugs and Triple Sunstraders, and really tries to delay with Frenzied Forsaken. Those ones will die, obviously. So I will wait up until the Frenzy runs out. And this Dread Charger soaking up the Forsaken here. Which will enable good nasty surprises, of course. But this is also high cost because he's really playing at this power limit. And yeah, it's important to make sure that that you can just have units in the backline that can remove the resummons. My units were split against this upcoming nasty. It was pretty obvious that he tried to do the hit nasty thing, where you just do one Dread Charger hit and then the nasty surprise to make sure to finish it off. Without the buff from soaking up corpses, this also works 2 out of 3 times. Melee units do have 3 different animations, attack animations that kinda 2 of them deal enough damage for the hit plus nasty combo to kill the Sundra. If you're lucky and the 3rd one hits, it doesn't kill it. In this case, I just made sure that he doesn't even get the chance to do the combo to my 2nd Sundra. And yeah, power dropped. Great position for me. Also, all those Forsaken end up dying. With the score investment here, you can see there's like basically nothing. Just 100 score difference because he just retook this power here. Not too much of an overinvestment here from my side. And with no units around, I just go for another attack. This is just important because you can see how much he struggled when just welling up so much in tier 2 in this particular matchup because of the tier 3 power spike and my issues to really convert tier 2 advantages into something that really wins me the game. And yeah, we see those Sundras here being stacked up. I just don't want to push too early because if I just walk in with the first Sundra, I might just die to the Frenzy and then he soaks up the Frenzied Forsaken, and yeah, that would be really bad. I really try to get a very, very good timing where I can destroy the power. It's not that important to be super fast with the attack. You have basically like you can just take a minute or 2 to take this successful attack and make it very power efficient, as it makes you more consistent overall, and you don't have to gamble into the Frenzy Forsaken army. Because at this damage level, as you can see, even if he has like 4 Frenzied Forsaken, this power wheel still drops, and it's like not even close. Second power wheel kicked, just gave 48 power, so pretty good scenario here for me. Now there are lots of Dread Charges here in the area, and obviously this is a large tier 1 lead, and I was in a great position. But for some reason I thought I can take a power, and that was probably the most terrible move I've seen in a while. This power extremely greedy. I have so much void, you can see like there's like so much void that really needs to come back to me before I can do these kind of proactive moves. And yeah, you can see this getting punished immediately. Thugs obviously enough to zone out the Forsaken, but definitely not enough to remove those Dread Chargers as well. And yeah, while this is a terrible move from my side, because I lose this power basically immediately, this is very good for the basics, for the game analysis overall, because this makes the tier 2 relevant again, because right now I have 2 power worlds kicked so early on that just yeah, if I win through tier 2, that still isn't like the perfect result, right? But yeah, another Sandra attack being on the run here because I try to make sure that I can apply pressure without taking too many wells here. But yeah, wall being taken, Night Guard being played, Draken playing it super safe. So I ended up taking the power well as well. And wall getting destroyed again. Maybe a tad too early because I can still move down with the Sandra, but he has a certain army that he can utilize to move forward. And he's up on power well again, you can see. He's really trying to increase the void level. Pretty risky move considering there's a Sandra that is going down for the main base. But instant frenzy on the Forsaken, double frenzy, so I really have to turn around. 100 power though, that just goes down, which enables me to take the second power well rather safely. And I really need to retreat a little bit because I have no power to erupt if he pushes me in the choke point. This enables the Night Guard to run around, but I have this Sandra in the corner. In the meantime, the skirmish is going on with the eruption. I had like stalled for long enough to make sure this happens. On the bottom there is the swap, but I made sure the Sandra is just far enough from my base so it does not get dangerous to me, because this Night Guard will be alive for sure. I have the power to re-swap before the Sandra deals significant damage to my power. And this is what's really important here in this case. Because I'm certainly not ahead, because even though I just lost 1 power and he lost 2, his power wells gave him like 50 power, while I just basically gave 10 or something like that. So in the meantime, I'm slowing down the Night Guard here, making sure the reswap does not happen again. But there's a second Night Guard, so I will try to move the Sandra into the corner as far away from my base as possible. So now Draken trying to utilize the tempo that he has to get into T2 here. But I really don't want this to happen again, so I just try to play a more aggressive Tier 1 approach while keeping the Night Guard around. Threadcharger Nesty here into the army, trying to make sure those units drop low. And yeah, this extended Tier 1 approach quite successful, considering that Draken really tried to invest a lot to remove Sandra in time. And you can see it was really close. He almost had the power to use the Kobold trick, and at that point it would be a lot closer, even though I had the Sandra running here towards the center. But this Night Guard being chased away from the Sunstriders, blocking this path here, so these Sunstriders can come around the corner and snipe it. At this point, I kick the power well and also have a unbound Sandra, which is pretty important. So Sunstriders blocking the path for the Tier 1 versus Tier 2 scenario. Nightcrawlers being played on this side, Mass Nightcrawlers being played on this side to threaten the area over here. And yeah, you can see I initially thought, yeah, I can move up to the top and defend it, but in the end I thought this would be too much with the Mass Frenzy, maybe Life Weaving. So I just took the wall over here to buy time. But since I moved my units, I didn't maintain a good unit split, so big cold snap happening here. In the meantime though, this Nightcrawler on the bottom here getting frenzied, chasing down the Sandra. Buying me a little bit of extra time here, and you can see this was pretty low. 13 HP, super close. And retreating with the Sandra here, Frostbite and Nightcrawler Frenzy not enough to kill it. And with that I maintain a good position to make sure that this power well here is repaired. And yeah, this extended tier 1 scenario really gives me a certain position that I can work with. I just try to buy a little bit of extra time here with the Sandra, so this Reaver attacks it at least once. Cold Snap being dodged here. And this Firethorn gets killed, but it also draws the attention of the Lost Reaver, so it moved away from the power well and everything is safe. And Draken on even power wells in the meantime, and yeah, I cannot really attack now, so I have to go tier 2 as well. Like if I play Sunderas, at some point in time, the tier 1 versus tier 2 units just aren't efficient enough, especially if I attack an orb, which can obviously constantly shoot at my Sunstriders, which are very low in terms of HP. So Draken using this time window to take a 5th power well, again trying to play for his win condition, trying to play for his tier 3, which is pretty good, of course, but I ended up responding with a 5th power well as well, and this time I'm again at a close base, and I'm going for the Lyrish Knights. So this is obviously a risky move, because this is a very dangerous choke, where I cannot really split my army. Just back here in this corner here, let's say it like this. And if I retreat, he can still just move up forward and pick my units off. So this is something that I want to use to convert an advantage and not to create one, obviously. But the Lyrish Knight, as we've seen in the previous game, works quite well in those close well scenarios. And since I generated a tier 1 advantage, I have a way to basically play more units than my opponent does, so I can still try to achieve very good trading results here. And also, this gives me a time where I can pressure my opponent before he gets to power well 6, to power well 7, and so on. So we get into the trades much earlier power-wise. So Stormsinger has been played, and yeah, there we go, more Stormsingers, and now those tradings happen. I need to make sure that I keep enough power to resummon constantly, but with a void return, it's obviously not too terrible for me. And yeah, this constant just doesn't generate value here, because I can resummon too many units too quickly, so I can just snipe out one Stormsinger. He loses the Dark Assassin presence here. And now with one Ice Barrier I can just start bring those Lyrish Knights to the field. Also start bringing in the Aura of Corruption. Bringing in another Lost Reaver here. With a nasty surprise, units still alive. Yeah, I thought he would resummon, so I had the Ice Barrier planned to do something here with the spawns. Aura of Corruption obviously pretty strong to defend a single area here. And Draken trying to use this stalling time to pick up this additional power well here. So I try to set up an attack from two sides here by securing this area here and applying pressure from two sides. So if he auras at one area, I can just apply pressure from the other one. Unfortunately, this Lyrish Knight being dazed, and yeah, more knights coming into play. Freeze being played, and this is something that Draken tries to do here, just stalling on the one side, shifting the pressure to the other one to maybe kick this power well here to regain this pressure situation where I can just aura on one side. But with the current power level, it is pretty hard to really get enough done with those Stormsingers. Even though he's doing a good job at dodging the freeze on the side, motivating the Stormsingers, and now he needs to invest power again at the bottom. Another combo trick, another freeze, and yeah, the Lyrish Knight, even though the Stormsingers are an M counter, their damage output is rather low, so the Lyrish Knight can survive for quite some time and trade into them. Especially with the lava field here and the support of another Stormsinger. And yeah, another motivate being played to also support these two in the center. Yeah, now those Lyrish Knights and Stormsingers so spammable, trying to get good results for me. Trying to get those Lyrish Knights out of the area here, because yeah, I don't want to run into big Lost Reaver nasty. Frenzied Nightcrawler played next to the Stormsinger. I try to kite it to the side so I can hit the Lost Reaver and the Nightcrawler with the freeze. And also try to apply pressure with the Nightcrawlers while kiting the Frenzied Nightcrawlers as much as possible. Lava Field, again hitting units and buildings, of course. And yeah, with an eruption, a power drops. And right now you can see that the pressure starts building up more and more, and now we can finally convert our advantages into something meaningful. So what didn't work out in the first three games seems to finally work in the last one here, in the fourth one. And yeah, Dark of Assassin being played, obviously still strong trading tools with the Instant Frenzy to remove the Stormsinger, to deal significant damage to the Lyrish Knights. But what's also pretty good of Lyrish Knight is that it is a card that has a solid charge count with 20. So it doesn't run out as early as like maybe Nightcrawlers or something like that, which is capped at 16. And now, since I have a solid position here, I can also start bringing in those Skyfire Drakes and immediately focusing Nightcrawler. Shouldn't get nasty, of course. But yeah, Frost Sork now starting to generate value because we are at the point where we really need bigger units in here to deal significant damage. Another freeze is really necessary. I don't have enough power for an eruption, unfortunately. I saw this too late, played the Lyrish Knight on the top side. But there was a time window for me to kick another power. And yeah, now this Aura of Corruption being played. And you can see now he has to place it differently. Now I can place Stormsingers here, maybe like hit this power well with ranged units like Skyfire Drake. But also the Lyrish Knight with the shield can do a lot of work from here. And also try to kite through the aura, so this Reaver still in the aura, still would tank up damage. And what's also important, obviously, by controlling this and this spot here, I also control the area and deny tier 3 spots. So it would take some time to walk to the side and take the tier 3. In the meantime, trying to protect the Frost Sorceress. Ooh, it did work out, but yeah, pretty lucky here. Stormsinger getting another shield. Cold Snap on the top, Cold Snap on the bottom here. Making sure everything is frozen for now. But yeah, next aura being played, this time on the top here. But this will give me time to react on the bottom later on, if necessary. But the continuous pressure should help a lot at this point in time. Cobalt Trick, Nightcrawler, the army is still alive, but now I decided to just move out of the aura, keep the 2 units alive at the side, and then basically use the remaining ones from the successful Reaver defense here to walk towards the unprotected power. And yeah, Dark of Assassin activation, obviously good target for the shield for the Frost Sorceress, making sure the Skyfire stays alive, with more Lyrish Knights coming from the other side again. So I have this multi-angle attack that makes the Aura of Corruption use case a little less efficient. And another shield here, making sure that the nasty does not happen. Next Aura of Corruption. But now there's a Glacier Shell. You can see that power limit should be reached and power drops again. Reduced the level to 4 despite the high void. Now this attack finally ended up succeeding. And yeah, at this point Draken ends up tapping out. So this was pretty much the successful way of converting a certain advantage in tier 1 into the constant pressure to avoid my opponent from reaching tier 3, which didn't work out in the previous games. So I think this was something that was really interesting to watch, because you could see a lot of approaches that didn't work out early on. And finally, something that did a solid job at least converting something based on a condition that allows me to win the game here. I really needed the close base, of course, to get the maximum value out of the Lyrish Knights. So something I cannot do from behind, most likely, but it still might be interesting to see how to play out the Shadowfrost versus Firefrost matchup in a lot of scenarios, because I personally think it is one of the harder matchups to play. And yeah, so I hope you enjoyed watching the replay series, and yeah, see you in the next video.